So what do the candidates need to do today in Atlanta, where Jonathan is, and this weekend around the country to capitalize on their performance, or for that matter, as we were talking, perhaps make up for their rather unremarkable performances as some had? National Review editor, Fox News political analyst Rich Lowry is with us now. Rich, good to have you. One of the things that was so amazing about the debate is there were so many different storylines playing out on that stage. One of the big ones was the Rubio Bush storyline, in the sense that they once time had this mentor-protege relationship, and a lot of folks are now saying that's flipped, with so many people saying Jeb Bush was pretty flat and Rubio really shined.
Well, you're absolutely right. The conventional wisdom was, when Jeb initially got into this race, it was squeeze out Marco Rubio. Rubio wouldn't be able to raise money. He wouldn't want to run against his mentor and friend, and he would stay out. Obviously, he got in. He's raised enough money to be credible, and we saw on that debate stage why there's so much upside to Marco Rubio. Now, the problem he doesn't have a clear ideological base the way, say, Ted Cruz does. He doesn't have a geographic base the way, say, Scott Walker does in his foothold in Iowa there, but he has a lot of political talent, and his campaign is just banking on that. Will allow him to catch fire at some point in this campaign, and who knows, Thursday night might have been the first spark.
But, Rich, I want to expand on Rubio before we move on to other topics. How far can his sheer talent take him?
Well, I think it's limitless. You just don't know. And it just depends on whether he takes off or not. He's not necessarily a natural match in Iowa. There's going to be a lot of competition in New Hampshire. So, again, if you kind of check off all the ideological and geographic bases, it's hard to see where his sheer base is. But this is a guy, you know, after the debate, people were comparing him to JFK. If you talk to Democrats, they're almost uniform in saying he is the candidate they potentially fear most. So, again, he has major upside. His campaign is very shrewd. They're not spending a lot of money. They're being very frugal, and they consider, obviously, their main asset him and his talent.
Sure, and I want to switch gears right now and ask you a little bit more about, or ask you about John Kasich. I read your piece, and you did say that he benefited, of course, from a very friendly crowd. He was obviously a hometown gentleman there. But I want to ask you, is he a really big threat in this race, and who is he potentially a threat to?
I think he is a threat, and he's a threat to Jeb Bush. Now, we'll see. He got very strong media reviews, John Kasich, but we'll have to see how the average Republican reacts to, say, his very strong defense of expanding Medicaid. But if he catches on, particularly in New Hampshire, it is a significant complicating factor, to say the least, for Jeb Bush. Because Jeb, in this race, I really think has to win on the Romney model, which is you have all the establishment advantages, you dominate the center right, and you grind everyone down. If Kasich is impinging on that space, it's really hard for that model to work. And you already saw Kasich ticking up some in New Hampshire prior to the debate.
All right, so Rich, give us the takeaway in the larger sense. You had 24 million people watching these 10 guys who were on the stage. There were a lot of moments in television there, and there were a lot of things to dissect. But did anyone sort of rise to the crop? Was there any cream that came all the way to the top? Did anybody sink really far, or did we simply just all take one giant step down the road together?
Well, I think almost everyone did well. I think I didn't like Trump's performance, and I think it'll probably hurt him. I wouldn't expect his top-line number to drop much, but he'd been really gaining in his internals and his favorability among most Republicans. The number of Republicans saying they'd never consider voting for him was going down. It wouldn't surprise me if some of those numbers begin to reverse. I also thought Rand Paul hurt himself. He just kind of seemed petulant, in a bad mood. But everyone else's advantages were really on display. We've already talked about Rubio. Mike Huckabee is just a natural at this. It's hard for him to have a bad debate. Ted Cruz also, anytime you give Cruz the microphone, he uses it to advantage. Ben Carson disappeared at times, especially during the first part of the debate, but at the end you really saw his soft-spoken power as a speaker, and he was really winsome there at the end. So I think pretty much everyone did well, and the RNC has to be delighted to have just such a large and talented group, and maybe regretting the fact that it's limited the number of debates this time around.
Okay, and you talked about, obviously, a lot of talent. Did you see the same talent in the 5 p.m. debate?
Yeah, you know, you can take those candidates who are on the 5 p.m. debate and take them and compare them to the entire field in 2012, and they might be a more impressive field. And I agree with the conventional wisdom that Carly Fiorina really hit it out of the park, which wasn't surprising to any of us who have seen her on the campaign trail so far in these cattle calls at various forums. She never fails to excel, and she did it on that 5 p.m. stage. And now we'll see, you know, she doesn't need much of a bump, 3, 4, 5 points to get among the top 10 for the next event.
All right, excellent. Richard Lowry, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.